right. Well, we're going to try to take this call as best we can. We've got Nate. Him is an atheist in California and has some questions about the differences between sex and gender, and about sports and stuff. So we're going to do the best we can here, Nate. You're talking with Jim Barrows and Secular Rarity. What you got for us? What are your questions?
Hey guys, good afternoon. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
Well, we all know, we all are aware, and we don't want to go describing all of this, but in a word, we all understand sex is a biological thing. Gender is more in the head. It's about how a person feels. So
I'd say more societally.
It's societal. Yeah, societal.
Yeah, I'd say more. It's a
societal.
society.
Yeah, it is more societal. Yes, I agree. So all that being said, right? What I have a little bit of difficulty, what I'm grappling with, is the fact that, let's say you have a person who's born male, right? Male in the sense with all the proper chromosomal appendages and assemblages in place, and a penis and everything. But then as they grow up, right, they start identifying as female, right? Legit. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. Sure. Because a person feels like they're female. Great. And also to the end that they would want to be addressed as a she or her, or even a they, or depending on whatever. But then when it comes to, but remember that they're still biologically male, right? They're stronger in general terms than females physically, isn't it? Now, that said, if they start participating in sporting events, right, where it's a female sporting, a swimming event or a running event or something like that, we know that this person has an undue advantage, right, a physical advantage, clearly. But then they're allowed to participate in.
Well,
so you're.
Yeah, so I know where you're going with this, and let me pull this directly from real life here, real quick. This is an article on LGBTQ Nation, written in 2021, entitled "2 More Cis Black Women Banned from Olympics for Their Natural Testosterone Levels." So when you say that, men have more testosterone than women, we're talking about an average. We're not necessarily talking about athletes. And women can have and do have unnaturally high or higher than average testosterone for their sex. It happens. So to say categorically that just because somebody was born with high levels of testosterone shouldn't compete against women, that doesn't make any sense, right? I think this is, and these aren't the only two. This is just the first ones that I found. In fact, this wasn't even the example I was looking for. But we have this problem in sports now, where we're testing women, cis women, for unnaturally high levels of testosterone. But we're not doing it for the men. We're not looking at men and going, do you have abnormal levels of testosterone?
Right.
And we're not, do they have abnormal levels of estrogen?
Yeah, because that could play into it as well, depending on the sport.
Right. And so I think it's very misogynistic to do this. But I also, saying that, because there are two things that are true here, right? One, it's misogynistic to do this. And two, there is an issue here, right? Because yes, if you have, especially in like combat sports or full contact sports of any kind, then yes, you're going to have muscle mass issues. But we're going to have that no matter what. Leave the trans issue out of it. We've got a problem that our bodies, the human body, runs on a spectrum, and everybody can follow anywhere on that spectrum. And so we just need a better way to deal with it. And we don't even have to look at the LGBTQIA issue when it comes to this kind of stuff, right? Because right now we're banning cis women from sports. We're taking medals away from them because their bodies produce high levels of testosterone, and they decide they don't want to take drugs to lower their testosterone levels.
And
You
same
know,
thing with bathrooms and changing rooms, where this supposed miracle cure that just prevents all trans from getting into certain spaces, apparently it's actually negatively affecting cis men and women more than it is, so yeah, what do we do with that? What are your thoughts on that, Nate?
No, so I think we slightly deviated from what I was looking for. In that, I think Jim brought up a good point. I'm with you guys in that we have a long way to go to be able to properly solve this problem, right? No doubt in that. And Jim cited testosterone. I started with that. What I'm talking about is, I'm not even going that far. All I'm saying is this person, as an example, a hypothetical person, of course, as an example, is somebody who is biologically fully male. In that, if the person has sex with a woman, right, there will be a healthy, full human baby.
But that's not how we determine
the
biological sex of people, right? So that may be a good place to go, Nate. Like when you say biological sex, because I hear more people using that terminology lately, and I think it's because they want to try and narrow what the actual criteria is that most biologists and medical personnel, the people who are much smarter than me and have the degrees and stuff, like when they talk about sex, it's there's a lot of different things that come into it. So for you, when you talk about biological sex, what are you thinking of? It sounds like chromosomes is at least a part of it. Is there any other aspect to it, or is it just chromosomes?
Yeah, no, so I have to be honest here. I'm not a biologist or scientist or anything like that.
Hey,
so we don't. I mean, we don't even. We don't have to get into the chromosomes or anything else, right? We just look at a couple of really basic things. For instance, less than 1% of the human population is born fully intersex, with fully working penis and vagina both in the same body, right? And as you go either side of that bell curve, right, you're going to get people who have gone their entire lives and didn't know that they had a non-functional genital of some kind in their body. Why is it such a hard thing for people to understand that if that can happen with body parts, why can't that happen with the way the brain is wired? Right?
Because not at all. Yeah, nobody has a problem with that.
Jim. So, all right. So what's your point then? Because we're agreeing on this.
My point then is, I'm saying that in my mind, right, let us say, this person who is born, if you ask a doctor and the doctor conducts all the checks on the person, right, and confirms that this is biologically a male baby, right, that baby grows up and then starts in their mind, right, they start feeling like
it's not in their mind.
A woman trapped in a man's body, right? Yeah,
it's right. But I just pointed out it's not in their mind, right? Because this goes back to my point I just made about if our genetics can put this two different genitals in the same body, have somebody be born intersexed, why can't it put a woman's brain in a man's body? Why is that so hard to accept?
It can, right? It absolutely can.
Okay, so then,
no doubt
then if you're going to go into sports, right, then we get back into what I just pointed out, that article I just pointed out, where we have two cis women with very high levels of testosterone being told that if they're going to continue to compete, they've got to take drugs to adjust it so they're more normal women, right? And that's not right.
Are you saying...
Where do you go from that? I mean, what's your point? There's just really no way to object to this without running afoul of either of these.
Yeah, it almost sounds, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, of course, Nate. But so I'm gonna ask, like, are you saying that there's something again inherent about like being born biologically male? We haven't even like fully sussed out what that means, but let's just say we're on the same page. Like, do you think there's something inherent about being born biologically male or going through like biological male puberty that like makes somebody, just forever unchangeably like physically superior to people who haven't gone through that?
I haven't given a thought to that particular angle, but what I was thinking of really was to say that isn't it unfair to the other women in that competition, right? Who are bound to lose that competition. Yeah. That's my point.
And my counter question to that is my question to that, or my answer to that is it fair to limit women who have unnaturally high levels of testosterone? Because that's the primary hormone we're talking about when it comes to athletics. Right? Because that determines muscle mass and everything else. And you're either born with lots of fast twitch muscles for speed sports, like doing the mile and sprinting and all those sports, or power muscles for the power sports. Those things are all part of the genetics too. But we're really just talking about testosterone. And so I see this as an issue that combat sports needs to deal with, because the other thing that male hormones do is they make the bones a little bit bigger and thicker. That can be an issue. But I think the real solution to the problem is to ignore gender and put people into classifications so they're competing fairly based on something that is actually more objective than just sex and gender. And that was really the answer to it.
I agree with that. 100%. Yeah. But we're not there yet, right? Do you agree we are not there yet?
And we don't have any answers to this yet.
Different way. Yeah. That's what we're struggling with. Yeah.
Right. I mean, and the UFC is not even so. Yeah. The UFC is struggling with this right now. Is how do they figure it out? And I think the only answer is get rid of the women and men's categories and put them into by weight class, and weight class will take care of folks with bigger, stronger bones as well as muscle mass right there. And if you're going to, go ahead.
Oh, no, please finish up.
If you're going to be in some sort of speed sort, whether it's a foot race or swimming or any other, human physical foot race type thing, then you probably should categorize them by how fast they're running, so that everybody who's running the mile is running at the same speed and they're all competing fairly that way. Yeah. And ignore those classes. But even then, I don't know enough about this, and it's just not there yet. But yeah, it is an issue we have to deal with as a society as we recognize and no longer marginalize these folks.
Yeah, and I think, and that's exactly where I was going to go, Jim, which is I think in this scenario, in this discussion, right, which sure, there's still some nuance to hash out. Dr. Ben and I, have had some wonderful private conversations where we've just gone, all kinds of which ways on this, because there is a lot of stuff to hash out. I totally agree. In this scenario, I would absolutely rather err on the side of inclusivity and allowing people to participate in what I consider a fundamental human right, which is the ability to participate in sports with your peers. I would rather we err on that side and be as freaking inclusive as we possibly can around the board. And I think we are when we say, yes, trans athletes absolutely can and should participate in sports. Again, with specifically UFC punching each other in the face sports, maybe we need to take an extra week to really hash out the criteria. But I think, when we look at what is gender and what is sex, it's a handful of different things. Both of them are a set of different boxes, and one single check on either side doesn't mean this or that. It's a very fluid thing, and that's awesome. As Christy Powell always says, embrace the squish of life. Like, it's awesome that is what life is like. And as we are more inclusive, maybe what we see is 100 years from now, totally, completely different sports categories, but different sports categories that are even more inclusive, even more fair, and allow all the people who love the sports to just have more freaking sports. So I see only positives, on this side. But I think for the most part, Nate, you're kind of on the same page with us. It just sounds like you think there are still just some things that need to be hashed out, which again, I think so too. But yeah, give us your thoughts on that, and then we'll grab some of these super chats. Okay.
Yeah. So the quick thought on that is, I am fully on how you folks are thinking, in that it's not a cracked problem, right? There still have some ways to go on that, for sure. But where I will kind of part ways a little bit is secular Rarities with you on this one, in that at this juncture, because we don't have a full solution, we shouldn't be, simply shoehorning inclusivity in that way, because it is unfair to the larger contingent of female athletes in that particular race who have struggled all their lives to be where they're at, and certainly.
I know I'm jumping in. I know I'm interrupting you, Nate, but where is there? Because I hear this, and I don't think I don't think what you're saying here is as strong as I'm gonna put this back to you. But like, I hear these people saying in their talking points a lot of times, like how trans girls and trans women are just destroying sports. They're just wiping out the cis women's. Oh my gosh, the competitors have no ability to compete. They're getting dominated. Where? Just give me one example where this has happened, and then I'll give you like 500 examples where trans athletes participate in sports, either individual or team based, right? Where, funny enough, they just do like every other human being that participates in the sport. And sometimes they're on the podium, and sometimes they're just a little bit slower. So do you know of any sport that is currently just being overrun and dominated by trans women or trans girls? Like, because if not, then I kind of feel like, hey, we're in the same boat again, which is, if we start seeing that happen, oh my gosh, absolutely, you guys. Let's all get together and let's talk about it and let's hash it out some more. But if we're just like yelling about a problem that doesn't exist, gosh, I'd really love to save that breath and yell about some problems that do exist, because there are a lot of them.
I agree. Yes, absolutely. And to your question on, can I cite something that's so wide ranging and taken over by trans and all that? Don't get me wrong, right? I'm 100% on everybody's side here, and I respect what someone feels as in terms of the gender, and I'm very happy to comply with it. But I'm just trying to call straight here, and I may be completely wrong, right? Of course. Recently there was this couple of swimming events, right, where unfortunately I don't have it in front of me. Do you know how
many swimming events, both collegiate and professional, in just the United States alone have happened this year already? It's September. We're 10 days in. Do you have a ballpark figure off the top of your head?
No,
because I do.
Sorry.
They're in the thousands.
No,
They're in the thousands.
Yeah.
They're in the thousands.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got thousands and thousands of competitions that are happening, which means we've got tens of thousands of athletes, and one single trans individual was able to make one freaking podium placement. And like, hey, I get it. That's technically more than there was 50 years ago. But like, the numbers we're talking about are 0 to 1, right?
Well,
or 1
as far
to 2.
as we know, 50 years ago.
As far as because trans athletes have always been participating in sports. It's only been recently where people have really started to get up in arms. But I think overall, Nate, honestly, we're on the same page, man, for the broad strokes of it. And you are, I'm just assuming a little bit here, and we all know how dangerous that can be. But I think you're one of those people who would be shoulder to shoulder with all of us here in supporting trans rights and human rights across the board. So yeah, I think this was a good call, and hopefully we hashed out some stuff. We are going to let you go, Nate. So thanks so much, and do call us back in the future, man. I think we might have some other really good conversations.